So we want to think about the habits of our future self and start to do them today. So that's how we change our life. We don't live life as the identity of our current self. We live life as the identity of our future self. And that's what gets us there. Oh my God, I'm so excited about today because we will be breaking down this book. It's Bob Proctor's Change Your Paradigm, Change Your Life. This book literally changed my life. The book builds a lot of curiosity. It helps us to really ask ourselves questions. And there are a lot of tools in here, so I'll be sharing tools and tips and techniques for us to be able to just be more aware of our mindset and figure out how to break through a lot of our habits or our programming, if you will. What is a paradigm? A paradigm is literally a set of habits that we have. And we don't realize that a lot of the things that we do on a day-to-day basis are actually habits. So your paradigm are habits that you've gathered over the years. One interesting fact from this book is your habits are not necessarily like things that you intentionally decided to form. So your genetics inform your habit, your environment, so where you grew up, who raised you. Those are some of the things that inform your habit. So those are things that are good to know, that a lot of the things that we do today are not just because we intentionally decided to do them. There are some programming that we may not be aware of. And so that's what this book teaches us. So for instance, for me, one habit is I always used to say, I don't have an entrepreneur's bone in me. I always said that. And that was because growing up as a child, I had parents who were 9-to-5ers. And a lot of that was my childhood. I just saw my parents grinding, climbing the career ladder. My dad did have a business, but he didn't really bring us into the business as such. And as a result, I always used to say, I'm just not an entrepreneur. I can never be an entrepreneur. I can never have a business. That's a habit. That wasn't something I intentionally decided to do. I didn't intentionally decide to not be an entrepreneur or to not have an entrepreneur's bone, like I always say. It is actually because from my environment, I didn't have a lot of entrepreneurs modeled to me. Versus some other people who maybe their parents are entrepreneurs. They probably don't have that habit. They don't have that paradigm. So they don't have literally anything to break in that realm. So that's one example of a habit. So a tool that we can use to identify what our habits are, and a lot of people don't realize it, me included. So you wake up in the morning, you brush your teeth, you take your bath, you go to work, you come back home, right? You just look at it as a normal day. But a lot of us don't pause to actually assess our day from the outside looking in. One tool that we can use to identify what our habits are is to tell ourselves, today I'm going to assess my day. So wake up in the morning and say, what am I doing? What does my day look like from morning till evening? You can even journal what you're doing, what's going on, what are some of the things that are happening throughout the day. And you can start to identify the habits that you have. But the first step to breaking a habit is being aware that you even have it. But the beautiful thing about it is the fact that you've identified that it's a habit, then you also are identifying that it's actually something that can be changed. People always say, I'm a night owl, I'm an introvert, I only like to do X and I only like to do Y. Me included, a lot of times we talk about it as though it is fixed, as though that is something that is static. And that's what this book talks about, is it is static because it's programmed. And a lot of times it was programmed from when you were a kid, when you were little. And so you've always known that you were that thing. Do a life audit or paradigm audit or habit audit. Journal. You can even do it tomorrow. When you wake up in the morning, what time did I wake up? What did I do first? For instance, I identified after I read this book, I'm spending so much time on social media, right? And I'm sure a lot of us can relate to that. I'm spending so much time on social media, scrolling through social media and not meeting the goals that I want to meet. And it was through an audit of my life that I identified, this is actually a habit that I want to break. So I noticed that when I wake up in the morning, I grab my phone and I didn't like that. I'm like, I haven't even said my prayers yet. I haven't even said hi to my husband, and I'm grabbing my phone, and the first thing I'll do is check social media, and then I'll check my inbox, and I'll check my calendar. Those aren't the things that I'm supposed to be doing in the morning. There was actually an exercise that Bob Proctor recommended in this book, and maybe I'll just give a teaser. He says to write what he calls a power life script. A power life script is you thinking about yourself in the future and writing out what you want that to be. You can just even type in ChatGPT to write you a power life script. So what do you want to be in the future? What are you looking forward to? Maybe if you're in college, you want to have graduated. Maybe you're pursuing a business. You want your business to have reached a certain point or a certain threshold. You want to get more clients. What big goal are you chasing? And I'm talking future state, 5 to 10 years. Now, you want to write that in the present tense. So for instance, I'm building my business. I'm a life coach and I'm building my business. So I'm like, I write a power life script telling myself as a successful life coach, I have helped millions of women to improve their life. I've helped professionals who are stuck in their careers to figure out their purpose. You write it as though it's already happened. I took it one more step. After writing it, I recorded it in my own voice. And so in the morning, I can grab my phone in the morning, I say my prayers, and that's the first thing I listen to in the morning. And that's also what I listen to at night. Because that's another thing in this book. And there's a quote in here that says, it's the repetition that alters what's going on inside of you. It is the repetition of hearing an idea that would change your belief system. So there are a lot of things that you've heard, and you're like, that is a great idea. We should definitely go to the gym 3 times a week. But if you go to the gym 1 time a week, and then you don't go to the gym the remaining 2 times, right? And then you keep doing that every month, it does not become a habit. You don't develop the habit. It is actually the repetition of doing the action over and over and over and over again. That's what helps us to develop a habit. So our minds are like a tape recorder, and everything that has happened in our life from when we were born till now have programmed us to be a certain way. So you have to literally play a tape over and over and over again in your mind for it to actually sink in. And that's why things like affirmations are important. That's why things like journaling are important. Affirmations and stating things in the present help to unwind and reprogram those things that we're thinking about in our mind. So that is the next step to changing your life and changing your paradigm, is to 1, identify the habits by journaling, by doing a paradigm or habit audit. And number 2, we then start to break it down to figure out how to reprogram our mind. But first, we have to believe it. We have to think about our mindset. So here are some questions that you can ask yourself. I did promise that I was going to share some tips and tricks and tools that you can use. In your journaling prompt, you can ask yourself, what areas of my life do I feel stuck no matter what I do? For instance, I used to feel stuck with working out, and I'm sure a lot of us can relate. I used to feel stuck with working out, just working out consistently. And so I figured out how to do it. I'm like, okay, you know what? I need to get a personal trainer who would force me to do it. But I identified that this is a goal that I continued to set, and I wasn't doing it. So here's the thing, right? I got a personal trainer for 6 months. Not 6 months, for a year. He would come to the house twice a week to train me. And then after a year, I discontinued the service. But I've consistently continued to go to the gym. So I needed the trainer to help me program my mind to be someone like, now I'm someone who works out. Because for a whole year, whether or not I liked it, he would knock on my door 2 times a week and force me to work out. I'm no longer using a personal trainer, but the habit is there. So on Monday morning, I'm like, okay, I need to work out. And that's how you identify that that's a habit that you want to change. Another question could be, what belief have I carried for years that I've never questioned? For instance, I always used to boldly say, I don't have an entrepreneur bone in my body. I'm just a 9 to 5 person. I always used to say that. I'm a 9 to 5 person, right? I always said that. And I never questioned it till I became aware that it's a belief system. Who even told me that I can't be an entrepreneur? Who told me that I only could work in the 9 to 5 role? Here's a third prompt that you can ask yourself. What did I grow up hearing about success, money, or relationships? And is it actually true? So here's what I would call a rewire and replace challenge. So now we've identified our habits and we've identified our limiting beliefs. How do we then rewire it? So I need you to flip that belief. So how can you flip a belief, a limiting belief that you have? So I'm not good at making money could be, I'm learning how to attract and manage wealth. So you're writing this down, and I want us to actually write it down. It's one thing to think it, it's another thing to read it every day. And you read that every day for 60 days, something is going to shift. So this week, we're going to write down one limiting belief that we have, and then we're going to flip it. So I'm not good at making money becomes I'm learning how to attract wealth, right? I'm not good at exercise, or I don't like exercising could be I'm learning how to become more fit and healthy so I can be here long term for my children, right? I'm not confident could be this is just an area that I'm trying to learn and understand, and in time I will be bold and confident. So we want to think about the habits of our future self and start to do them today. So that's how we change our life. We don't live life as the identity of our current self. We live life as the identity of our future self. And that's what gets us there.